Hello, friends. If you, like me, are interested in what's really going on with the most talked about and secretive projects of our defense industry, if you're tired of superficial headlines and want to get to the bottom of things, you're in the right place. I promise it's going to be hot today. We're going to break down one of the most discussed and foggy topics, the story of the T-14 Armata tank. Where is it? Why isn't it where it seems it should be? And what is it anyway? A breakthrough of the century or an expensive toy? Don't switch off. At the end of the story, I'm waiting for your comments. Write what you think and, of course, support the channel with a subscription. Our dialogue is impossible without that. Let's go. So, the story didn't start yesterday. To understand the Armata, you need to rewind the tape back. Way back. Our tank school, the heir to the Soviet one, has always been one of the strongest in the world. Remember the T-34? The legend that turned the tide of the war. Remember the post-war ISs, the T-54, the T-64? Machines that set the tone and made the likely adversary on the other side of the ocean nervous. But then came the collapse of the Union, the 90s, the disintegration of industrial chains, chronic underfunding, dark times for the defense industry. It seemed we had fallen behind forever. The West then bet on high technology, on network-centric warfare, on superiority in electronics. And we survived as best we could, keeping what was left of the giant Soviet Armata running, the same T-72s, T-80s, endlessly modernizing them. Then the 2000s arrive. The country gets back on its feet, oil money flows like a river. And in the Kremlin and the General Staff, an ambitious, even audacious idea is born. Not to catch up, but to leapfrog. To create not just a new tank, but to make a technological leap that would put us back at the forefront of world tank building. So, in 2009, at the legendary Uralvagonzavod, the Armata project started. And it wasn't just a new combat vehicle. It was a bid for a revolution. The first public appearance, the 2015 Victory Day Parade. Remember that shock? Something strange, futuristic-looking, drove across Red Square. It drove with an empty turret. People were lost in guesses. Where is the crew? It later turned out. The three-person crew sits in an armored capsule inside the hull. That was the first and main innovation that stunned everyone. For the first time in the world on a serial or declared serial platform, the turret became unmanned. This radically increased crew survivability. A hit to the turret no longer meant the certain death of the tankers. It was a breakthrough in tank design philosophy. The crew's life was made the top priority. But, friends, Armata is much more than just a tank. And here's where many are mistaken. Armata is a universal tracked platform. Imagine a powerful, protected chassis on which, like Lego bricks, you can mount different modules. Want a heavy infantry fighting vehicle that can advance alongside tanks and not fear hits? Here you go, the T-15. It's an IFV with tank-level armor, the first of its kind in the world. Need an armored recovery vehicle that can work under fire? Here's the T-16, also on the Armata chassis, with a remotely operated weapon station and its own protection system. And the pinnacle of this family, the T-14 tank. Let's talk about it in detail, because it is the main star and the main headache. Armament. A 125mm 2A82-1M gun. One of the most powerful in the world, capable of firing guided missiles. A transition to a monstrous caliber 152mm was planned. Protection. This isn't just steel. It's composite armor plus a new generation of explosive reactive armor called malachite. But the cherry on top, the Afghanet Active Protection System. These aren't just anti-cumulative slats. It's a full-fledged system designed to detect and intercept incoming shells and missiles, including armor-piercing, fin-stabilized discarding sabot rounds. Fantastic. Engine. A diesel engine with up to 1,500 horsepower. Speed up to 90 kilometers per hour. Incredible for such a beast. And the most important part, the filling. The T-14 is a network-centric platform. In simple terms, it's a tank computer, a tank scout, a tank coordinator. It sees further, knows more, and shares that information with everyone in its network. With other tanks, with artillery, with aviation, with command posts. It detects a target, it immediately appears on the artillery screens. receives data from a drone it can attack from cover. It's not just a gun on tracks. It's a node in a unified battlefield information network. It's the future that the Americans tried to create with their Future Combat Systems program but abandoned due to complexity and cost. And we, it seemed, did it, and made it real. And so, after the parade, the wait began. Everyone waited for when these steel ghosts would enter the troops, when we would see them in action. Years passed. 2017, 18, 19. There were reports about state trials, about contracts for the first very small batch. But there was no mass production. And then the special military operation began. And the question sounded with a new, sharp intensity. Where is the Armata? Why isn't it at the front? And so we come to the three main reasons that, in my opinion, explain this absence. These reasons are intertwined, and you can't single out one while ignoring the others. First reason, rawness and complexity. As grand as it sounds, the Armata may have indeed been ahead of its time for our industry. It's not about the genius of the concept, but about bringing it to perfection. Let's recall a quote circulating online. To change a track, you need to remove the explosive reactive armor and disassemble the side. In field conditions, in mud, in rain, that's a job for a special workshop, not for combat tankers. And war is always mud, dust, extreme temperatures, and emergency repairs under time and spare parts constraints. The most complex electronics, sensors, software, all of this requires a completely new level of crew training and, critically, rear support and repair services. At the front today, proven T-72s and T-80s of various modifications are fighting. Every tank sergeant knows their design, there are spare parts for them, and repairs are routine. You can't do that with the Armata. It's like sending experimental latest model smartphones into the trenches instead of proven, reliable, indestructible button phones. The Ministry of Defense, as the main customer, understands this perfectly. Their verdict, voiced repeatedly. The vehicle is promising but requires refinement. They don't need a parade exhibit. They need a reliable, reparable, unpretentious soldier. And that stage, it seems, has not yet been passed. Second reason, price. Let's call a spade a spade. The cost of one T-14 tank is estimated at an astronomical 250 million rubles. $250 million. The most modern T-90M costs, by various estimates, 4 to 5 times less. And a modernized T-72B3, even less. The question, what do we get for this money on the modern battlefield? Here we smoothly move to the most, in my opinion, the main reason. Third and main reason, the changed reality of war. The entire philosophy of the Armata was created in the 2000s, when the main threats to a tank were considered other tanks, helicopters, and ground-based anti-tank guided missiles. The Afghanet active protection system was created against these. But the war, especially the one we see now, has taught a harsh lesson. The king of the battlefield has become the drone. Cheap, mass-produced, omnipresent. Hundreds, thousands of kamikaze drones swarming over the battlefield. Anti-tank guided missiles launched from several kilometers away. Hunter pairs of attack UAVs. Round-the-clock aerial reconnaissance. And artillery that, having received coordinates, covers an area. In such conditions, even the most advanced active protection system has a limited capacity and does not save from a massive multi-layered strike. A drone can attack from the top hemisphere, which is a blind spot for many protection systems. Can hit with a mortar shell. It can direct artillery. In this new reality, the main thing for armored vehicles is not super armor and a supergun, but low visibility, dispersal, the ability to operate from cover, and quickly change position after firing. And here arises a terrible question for the Armata. Are all its bells and whistles necessary? If a tank still shouldn't expose its expensive front to a direct hit, but acts as a mobile, protected firing point from concealed positions, then many of its advantages are negated. The task of destroying a target from long distances can be handled by an older but modernized tank with a good fire control system that received targeting from a drone, or a self-propelled artillery unit. The risk of losing a vehicle worth $250 million rubles becomes unacceptable. Therefore, friends, the strategy we observe looks rational. Battle-tested, relatively cheap, reparable tanks with a Soviet legacy are sent into battle. Dozens, if not hundreds, of them can be produced and modernized. They are not a pity. And the Armata. And the Armata now is a strategic reserve, a technological testing ground. It is a machine that must undergo all trials, get broken in, become more reliable, and perhaps wait for its time. A time when the nature of war changes again, or when we learn to counter drones en masse, creating a reliable bubble of anti-air and anti-missile defense for such vehicles. Or when it becomes cheaper. As for the tests in Syria, yes, they happened. And they say they were successful. But Syria is not large-scale, high-intensity combat with a frontline thousands of kilometers long. It's a different war. So is the Armata a myth? A dummy? No, friends, absolutely not. It was and remains a grand technological leap, proof that our engineers can create masterpieces. It is a working prototype of the future. But war is a harsh and impartial examiner. It sets priorities. And right now, the priorities are quantity, reliability, and replaceability of losses, not single supermachines. And here I recall the wise words of Sergei Pavlovich Korolev, which fit this situation perfectly. If you do it quickly and poorly, people will forget that you did it quickly and remember that you did it poorly. If you do it slowly and well, people will forget that you did it slowly and remember that you did it well. So apparently they decided to make the Armata well, even if slowly. And for now, its place is not on the drone-scorched battlefield, but on test ranges and, perhaps in future, different wars for which we must be prepared. And what do you think about this? Do you agree with this analysis? Or maybe you have your own alternative version? I'm waiting for your comments. The picture is incomplete without them. And of course, if such a deep dive was useful and interesting for you, support the channel, subscribe, and hit the like button. We have many more such topics to break down.